Okay, this is the second part of your test review podcast. This is going to be kind of random. I just went through the test and put together slides. And you'll be surprised to see this one. Since your last test, I have acquired a couple more older AP tests, and I included some Unit 2 questions for review because they appeared on those tests. So, recognize this work? When was it produced? General era. What purpose did this painted relief serve? You should remember this from the essay portion of your test. Okay. What is this sculpture? What is it made of? And in what period was it produced? By the way, you might think about how you would know that if you hadn't, in fact, encountered this before. It shouldn't actually be hard to guess. What kind of a vessel is this? What was it primarily used for? And in what period was it made? This could be tough, by the way, although as it happens, the College Board makes it a little easier on you. But look this one up in your textbook, check the date, and then check it against the timeline. You'll see that most of the vases actually date from that period. Okay, here's a random collection of questions that I just stuck on a slide. I have 3 like this. What is a clerestory? This is another review question. This seems to have showed up on several AP tests, so I'm throwing it in again. You're going to encounter this term again in Rome, and then when we get into medieval architecture. So you might as well make sure you know it. What is the way we know most Greek painting styles, since wood murals have disintegrated? That's an easy one, I think. What's a sarcophagus? What is the first Parthenon building to be built completely in the Ionic order? I thought this was a hard question, although when I looked at it carefully, I realized that I thought it would be tricky to choose among 2 possibilities, and only one of them was given. At any rate, this is a gimme. Check pages 140 to 141 in your book. Look at the dates. Remember the 4 Acropolis buildings that you need to know. And by the way, when you check the dates, be careful. Remember, they go backwards. The subject of the frieze on the cella of the Parthenon. Now, be careful here. Remember, that's the cella is the part of the temple that houses the cult statue. It's the internal frieze. It's also really the most famous frieze from the Parthenon. You know about it from Khan Academy. You should know this one. This is one that shows up a lot on the AP test. You should also remember what a cella is. What is the primary purpose of Greek temples? I just gave you a hint about that a moment ago. And remember, too, the purpose that they do not serve, how they differ, for example, from churches. Okay, what is this sculpture? And what period does it represent? More questions. So what is the Erechtheion most famous for? Again, one of those 4 buildings on the Acropolis, the Parthenon, the Erechtheion, the Temple of Athena Nike, and the Propylaea. I don't actually believe that I gave you a slide of the Propylaea, so you should take another look of that. It wasn't in my textbook slide set for some reason. Take a look at it in your textbook. Okay, this is going to seem like a weird question, but what is atmospheric perspective? You'll see when you see the test that this is a huge hint, even though we haven't had the term, or maybe because we haven't had the term. Look it up anyway. You'll need to know it eventually. It's explained in the answer key. And remember, you can always miss a few and still get a perfect score. What is the sculpture that demonstrated Polyclitus's canon? In fact, he actually called it canon, but we call it something else. In this case, you need to know the English and the Greek name. Sorry about that. What is contrapposto? I think you guys have that one down pretty well. What is the kind of scene most commonly portrayed on archaic Greek vases? Again, I don't think you're going to have any trouble with this one. This one I was actually a little irritated with, but what order of temples usually does not have a base on its column? I will tell you that the College Board left off the adverb usually, which they should not have. I was actually a little shocked by this past question, but I'm throwing all the old questions that I have from this period. Okay, what is this work? And what sculptural technique was used to make it? Sorry if I keep repeating myself, but again, what is this work? And again, what technique was used to produce it? This is another image or question that appeared on multiple tests, so know it. Once again, what is this work? What culture produced it? And what kind of arch is this? And what do we call that space where the relief sculpture is placed? This is another question that in one form or another appeared on multiple tests. So you'll see it more than once and they'll kind of give hints for each other. Okay, this is another old one. What is this work? What culture produced it? I will give you a not particularly subtle hint and say it's in chapter 1. My AP instructor, as I think I had mentioned, said that there was no prehistoric art on the test. Now, this is from an older test. The ones that I got are from the 1990s. Maybe the College Board has since decided not to have prehistoric works, but I decided to do a little better safe than sorry. I think this is actually a tricky question, although you've had it before. What is the most common subject of Cycladic figures? Remember those very early Proto-Greek figures that we saw the very first day of this unit? Okay, here's another review question from an early test. What elements do you see in this cave painting? What is the approximate date of this painting? Yet again, I was surprised by this one as well, but this is an older exam. Maybe we won't have prehistoric art. On the other hand, maybe we will. And besides, I think these cave paintings are kind of cool. And finally, what are the Greek terms for these archaic statues? To be very blunt, what is the name for the archaic girl statue? And what is the name for the archaic boy statue? One or the other of those is very likely to appear on future AP exams. Good luck. If you pay attention to these podcasts and study, you should do brilliantly.